Okay, so I'm going to hand it over to John here because he's just put something on the docket which reads, surprise thing from John dash hee hee.
Hee hee.
Well, gentlemen, I wanted to mention this because it's kind of unexpected, I guess, but I mistakenly ordered something,
Oh no.
and it's this.
Oh, it's a Steam Deck OLED.
You got a Steam Deck. Wow.
So
Oh heck yeah.
I did go ahead and get the Steam Deck OLED.
Oh
And
boy.
it was almost an accident, but I said, whatever, let's do it.
What do you mean almost an accident?
So
How could you accidentally order a Steam
I
Deck?
was tempted to get it. I added it to my cart on Steam.
Yeah.
And then I didn't click buy. I was like, whatever. And then a deal came up for some game, and I was like, oh, I'll just add that to my Steam library. And I just clicked through as I always do. And then at the end, it said how much it charged me. And I was like, what? And it was
Oh my god.
so I was like, it's a
right.
sign. I may as well do it. so yes, I do have this, and it's awesome. I do like it a lot, actually.
What was the first game that you installed on it?
The first game I installed on it was, what was that? I think, weirdly enough, I think it was like Freedom Planet 2.
Okay.
Just because
What
it's
was the first HDR showcase game that you installed on
Ori.
it?
My God, Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Holy moly, that looks good on there. Like seeing that running on a small little HDR screen with that kind of like brightness and intensity. It's genuinely stunning. It looks so freaking great.
I mean, it is like having like a mini LG OLED in your hands.
At least, yeah, and not only that, the game runs at like 90 frames per second
Yes.
without issue. It's like completely super smooth. Like, so that's kind of my big thing here is I've used original Steam Deck enough, and I famously did not like the screen. This is night and day. It actually makes the thing feel like it got an massive internal upgrade, even though it didn't. Just because of the screen, it's such a difference. And that extra 90 hertz as well, because a lot of games on Steam can just run at 90 frames per second without issue on the Steam Deck. You know, lower end games, mind you, but stuff that
nonetheless,
it's cool when it's possible. But even then, like, and I was aware of this, but I really now appreciate how good Valve's interface is for interacting with things like the refresh rate. Just being able to hit that one button, pop over, and just like set your refresh rate to your desired refresh rate, which caps the frame rate, and you get perfect frame pacing. Amazing. Plus all the pre-compiled shaders that they do, and like everything just work. Like I'm running Unreal Engine games in here without any sort of real shader comp stutters, and I'm just like, what the heck? This is nuts. It feels great. And and even just something like I loaded up, you know, a bunch of older games, but I was like playing Doom 2016 on this with that bright OLED screen, and it's like, wow, this looks nuts. Like just to see this running on that portable at native res at that level of detail, and thanks to Vulkan, it has no troubles with the frame rate. It's like super smooth. That was amazing. Even new, like I loaded up Devil May Cry 5 on this thing, and it's just
that's a good one to do.
Perfect 60 FPS, and it looks stunning on this system. And you're like, wow, like you're getting a way better experience here than you could on say like a PS4, which is really cool. And not only that, you know, I've fiddled with some emulator stuff already, being able to drop out to the desktop. It's handled very seamlessly. I hadn't messed with that before, but yeah, I mean, it's just Linux desktop. Whatever distro they're using, I forget the name, but yeah, there you go. But I installed a bunch of extra stuff on there. I installed, you know, and with Proton, I was able to put on some random like Windows games that weren't tested, and it does work. I tested out RZ on there, you know, the game that I'm involved with that's coming out soon. Of course, Steam is like, we don't know if this works on the Steam Deck. It does work on the Steam Deck. It works very well on the Steam Deck. That's cool. And even stuff just like more older games, like loading up something like Sonic Generations and just running that at native res and just seeing it, you know, that game's capped at 60, unfortunately, but it just runs at 60. No problem. It's like super smooth, super crisp. Like everything I was testing out on here. Even I loaded up Batman Arkham Knight, which is still a showpiece in my eyes. And I was able to put a 40 FPS cap on it. which I felt like is a pretty good middle ground. And it
In
just
between.
driving around at 40 FPS with visuals that look that good. It's just surprising. But yeah, it really is. It's the user interface. The interface on this thing is, I mean, as you guys know very well, it's freaking awesome.
Amazing.
It just works super well. Oh, another game I tried that looked, honestly, was mind-blowing looking is Rise, Son of Rome.
Oh, you tried that out? That's cool.
So, actually you can go above 60 and it kind of mostly gets there, but it wasn't perfect. But I locked it at 60 and it's just like a super, with tweaking the settings a little bit, it looks better than the Xbox One original and it's 60 FPS. And because it's a small screen, the fact that they use FMV sequences no longer stands out. It was the same effect I tried Max Payne 3, 90 frames per second without even a hiccup. It looks freaking great on there. I'm looking through here as well. Fighting games look great. I tried Soul Calibur 6. I tried the Tekken 8 demo. And if you tweak it a bit, you can actually get that also running at a nice smooth 60 frames per second. And Tekken 8 even supports 16 by 10. So it filled the full OLED screen perfectly.
That's good.
Which, again, kind of unexpected. And a surprising number of games do seem to actually offer that.
Yeah.
So, that's just kind of my general impressions here is that the Steam Deck works darn good with a lot of games, and the interface that Valve has here is so good. And that's what made me think about this whole Xbox Windows idea of like, I think Microsoft needs to find a way to get a version of Windows that is like truly like this at this level, because this really is like a console like experience, the Steam Deck, but it allows you to drop out to an actual desktop to do PC things. I'm not, so that just, it's awesome in that regard.
When you did drop to desktop, did you use a mouse and keyboard that you hooked up to?
I actually haven't done that yet. I ordered a dock now because I want to just dock, one of those simple USB hub things just so I can actually more easily connect it. But I was using the little trackpad, which, it feels like the Steam controller, as you know, and it works pretty well. I'd say it's like a laptop touchpad kind of feel. I thought that was acceptable. I was able to do file management stuff on there between that plus the touchscreen and get that going. So that was really nice. So it actually does. I like it a lot now. And I said many, many episodes ago that when they would offer an OLED model, that's when I would want to upgrade and actually get a Steam Deck. And it finally happened. So
put your money where your mouth was by accident, but
I decided to just stick with it and just roll on out. So here we go.
Yeah, I see where you're heading now with the Xbox argument you were making earlier, because, if you think about what that could do with the lower level API, with the level of curation that having like console certification provides, and the other thing, of course, about the OLED Steam Deck is that it kind of solves other issues, like the battery life is actually now pretty reasonable.
Yeah, exactly.
The original was even though the original was tons better than the Windows laptops, the Windows handhelds, it was still kind of a bit iffy. It's like an hour and a half is a bit too constrictive on the AAA games. Whereas you just get a lot more battery life on the new one. It's kind of actually viable, and the concept of being able to produce PS4 level visuals or better in that sort of 800p window there is just phenomenal.
And I am fully convinced that just 1280 by 800 is a really good screen resolution for one of these, because at that size, the pixel density is more than high enough. It looks super sharp, but you don't have to drive that many more pixels that a 1080p screen has, which is why that whole 1080p deck thing that Oliver's looking at, I'm super skeptical about, because trying to drive extra pixels, the Steam Deck doesn't really want to do that hardware wise. Like once you start increasing that internal res or super sample up, that's when it really starts to show its limitations. But it just looks great at native res on this thing. And 16 by 10 is really good for this system because, emulation. You can play games in 4:3 on here, and the 4:3 image is quite large. So something else I like. So really, really impressed with it. It's super comfortable to use. As you know, it's bulky, quite bulky.
But Yeah.
but very comfortable, more comfortable than the Switch, I would say. So yeah, really, really, really good piece of hardware from Valve here. And I'm now sold on this sort of like kind of ecosystem setup thing they have going on. And it really also just, because it's just Steam integrated, just having the cloud save stuff, like this is one of the few times where it just really actually makes a lot of sense just to be able to seamlessly jump in and out of games on your regular PC or on the Steam Deck like this. So yeah,
that's awesome.
And based on what you're saying, Rich, about those Windows handhelds, I feel like they're not there. It's just Windows on there. And that's where Microsoft could really come in with some sort of new SteamOS like fork of Windows, or like a mode that you can run just for that type of hardware.
Yeah,
that would make such a difference.
In the past, they've done this, like,
They
too.
have.
They've split up, like, the reason why Tiles ever came to existence,
Right.
So, like, I feel like this is all doable. It's just a matter of getting which department at Microsoft is going to take the reign on this, because they seem to have like some jurisdiction issues there. I don't know what's going on, but like the interface in Windows could easily and highly support what they would want to do with these devices. They could do it so well.
I think there's a lot of complicating factors. First of all,
Sure.
The chip is small, right? It was designed for efficiency. When you look at what the Windows handhelds are using, they're using laptop chips, essentially, ultra low voltage for sure, max wattages typically in the 28 watt range, but that is gigantically higher than what the Switch and even the Steam Deck is doing. I mean, Steam Deck is like 15 watts max. Yeah. And I guess the question is, when you've got these chips that are much larger than the Steam Decks, more compute units, more CPU cores, it needs juice to keep them powered, right? So there's the silicon question, and then there's the operating system question, which is, to what extent is Windows actually an efficient operating system for a handheld? Big question marks over that at the moment. And then, of course, there's the utility side of things. They do seem to be trying to make things better with handheld applications on Windows,
Right.
But it's just not anywhere near the complete article that SteamOS is.
Mm-hmm.
There was an announcement this week that A&EO is producing a budget-orientated handheld the headline was based on SteamOS, but it looks like it's using Holo ISO, which is kind of like a derivative of SteamOS. But I will be interested to see the extent to which it operates like SteamOS and whether there are efficiency savings versus Windows.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's all interesting stuff. Sorry, John, just one thing.
Yeah,
I'm really happy when stuff I've talked about months in the past, they're saying it's really good, and you've kind of remained a bit skeptical. GeForce Now being the other one.
Yeah, that was the other one.
And then months later, you actually buy into it and actually validate what I've been saying for months.
No, you're completely right. Absolutely. Again.
It does make me chuckle.
I mean, I always thought the Steam Deck was a good device. It was really just the screen. The screen was so bad on that original one. It was really ugly, and not only that, it just kind of looked awkward in that Steam Deck shell because of how large the bezels were. Like the whole thing, you know what I mean, right? Like if you look at the OLED versus the original, the bezels got smaller, and it feels like the screen is now better formatted for the shell of the machine.
Yeah.
It just, also, of course, as I mentioned before, because it's OLED, when you have games that are 16:9, it does just black it out. So you do get slightly larger bezels, but it looks like a bezel instead of like glowing LCD backlight as it did before.
Yeah.
Which version did you get? The 512?
It's the 512.
Okay, so you don't have the extra coating on the...
No. I'd heard from people that the extra coating in lit room actually makes it look less dark.
Right. I'll bring mine over when I next see it.
Yeah, I want to see... I'm very curious to see how it compares, but yeah.
Right.
Okay, fair enough. Good stuff.